Hey, JR, did you bring your high chair this time?
Ouch. Was this another short joke? Look, I can't help it. I was born a wee person, all right? I think it's like mocking the disabled is against the rules or something. You can't mock the little people. All
Hey,
right?
it's one broke
Watch
dick
yourself.
mocking another broke dick. It's okay.
I mean, I don't want to have to like call the ADA or something like my friend's making fun of me. All right. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just three nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. So without further ado, allow us to put the fun in dysfunctional and introduce you to our favorite new guest, Mr. Reginald Lewis. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers, please?
Hey, how's everyone doing? My name is Reggie, Reggie Camp. That's a full name, but let's see. I'm originally from California, Stockton, California. That's where I was raised, born in Cleveland. I joined the Air Force in 2005, I believe. I went to first base was in Charleston, South Carolina. Great place, wonderful place. Then I went to a horrible place called Columbus, Mississippi. So if any listeners are for Columbus, Mississippi, I'm sorry, but it was just terrible there. But then after that, I went to the best place in the entire world, a little island in the South Pacific Ocean called Guam.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, Dragon Con's they don't have a duty station at Dragon Con.
Oh, no. This is Guam, best place in the world. I would love to live there forever, but unfortunately, after about 4 years, I had to come back to Georgia, which isn't that bad, but it's not Guam. So
no, but we do have Dragon Con.
Yes, I should go there one day. When's the next?
You know, I might know some people about that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
She's the track director for the fantasy side of things, which is right up your alley. But so just to clear things up for you, dear listener, he introduced himself by his given name, but he publishes as Reginald Lewis because he wants to sound proper so people can mistake him for a Charlestonian. He doesn't quite have it, though. His nose is not high enough in the air for that. So he's going to have to work on his airs if he wants to be properly Charlestonian and can claim South of Broad status. And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But
did you ever go to
get more hate mail?
There was a bar up there, had a whole bunch of stairs. I think it was called Wet Willie's. Do you guys remember that place?
Oh, dude, we had them in Savannah. They're awesome.
Yeah, well, I just remember one of my most vivid memories of that place is one of my coworkers was being thrown down those stairs by some security guards over there. So and he didn't even do anything. There was a fight, and he had nothing to do with it. I watched the whole thing. There was a fight over in the corner, and for some reason, the security guards picked him up, maybe because he was the smallest person.
Probably.
They just wanted an excuse to throw him down the stairs, I think. And I think as soon as they saw him that night, they're like, I'm going to find an excuse to throw him down the stairs. And they did.
So when I did my first deployment, we were working with the Charleston Naval Weapons Station as part of our build up to the deployment for some of our training. So they had us staying at the Marriott in downtown Charleston. So we did do some of those bar crawls. And I might have partaken in a few beverages in that fine establishment. And those gentlemen that guard the gates, they like to throw people out. I mean, so maybe there were some fists thrown. Maybe we were a little bit.
Here's the thing: Wet Willie's,
they should have defenestrated us.
Wet Willie's started in Savannah, and you're not supposed to stay at Wet Willie's. It's like topping off at the gas station. You you fuel, you walk on, but that's because Savannah, as long as you're south of Forsyth Park, is open drink, open.
Oh,
I almost called it open carry, but it's open container. There you go.
Open beverages.
And so you're supposed to like go, wander around, come back, refill, go.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
See?
We just went where the drinks were cheap. We were E2s, E3s on a budget, and almost all of our BAH was going towards beverages. So, I mean, it was one of my slides up and down the E section of the 3 to. Anyway, long story. I've already told you.
AR's the master of.
I was just really good. Look, I was only a corporal 3 times, and I kept it the last time for a whole week before they said, you know what? You are going to mess up so badly, I'm just going to make you a sergeant. And I'm like, I can handle that.
Hey, you know what? As long as you get there, right?
But one of those was a bar in Charleston that we were celebrating my first deployment a little too hard. And let me just tell you that the Air Force MPs aren't as nice as Army MPs, and so that when they dropped us off, they were a little bit rougher than they needed to. I'm just going to put that out there.
Probably because you were putting your foot in your mouth.
Maybe, but
maybe there was
Air
a little
Force...
bit of that, and maybe we were flirting with her. But look, in our defense, beer goggles are a thing.
Well, in your defense, you know, the Air Force is amazing in that they are the Army's daughter, and they recently just spawned a granddaughter for the Army.
Space Force, right?
That's right.
I had a friend that went to Space Force.
And everybody in the Coast Guard, like, yes, we're not being made fun of anymore.
Yeah, we do get made fun of.
And so, if anything,
I'm not mad about it.
If anything we have said tonight, dear listeners, has offended you, I want you to know that all hate mail can be sent to Cisca at Blasters and Blades Podcast at blastersandbladespodcast.com.
Can't even say the show name.
This is light stuff compared to any of the things I've heard.
Yeah, no, we like I said, we put the fun in dysfunctional.
Yes,
all right,
like true veterans.
That's the only way to be. So the second part of the introduction, dear listeners, how we first found them, and this is a one that doesn't happen very often, but Reggie actually found us. And again, Reginald Lewis, he actually found us because he's a listener of the show. So when he got his first book out, he goes, it'd be kind of fun to nerd out one veteran to another. And so we said, you know what, let's do that. So 100%. I thought with a name like Reginald Lewis, he might be a little stuffier than he was. I'm pleasantly surprised that he is not.
I am in the Air Force too.
It's Reginald and being Air Force.
Yeah, see, that's what it is. I'm in the Air Force too. But yeah. I'm a mechanic, so we are not stuffy.
Oh, yeah, no, that's an entirely different breed.
We're not even in the military.
No, you know what? I loved my mechanics. Absolutely, even though I did scare them. I had a habit of I looked at one of the mechanics one day for our FLAs, and I went, so squirrels make the engine work, right? And he goes, are you joking? And I went, and I just smiled. And from then on, it was very easy. I had one for each kind of mechanic for each kind of vehicle or generator we had in my medical company, and I just had them in my phone, and I even had them labeled by what they worked on.
Oh.
And if I had a problem, I just called them, and then I bribed them with home-baked cookies.
That works. Home-baked cookies, tornadoes, monsters, all that stuff works.
Oh yeah, no. The funny one was the time when they sent me to go find the donkey dick, which is apparently a real thing.
Yep, it is.
And I looked at them and I went, no, that's not real. And they went, yes, it is real. Go ask in the motor pool for it. So I go up and I went, I swear to God, if any of you make fun of me, I will hurt you, by the gods. I will hurt you. And this new NCO is like, why is she threatening? And I'm like, I need a donkey dick. And they're like, no, that really is a thing, Small. Here you go.
It is. Yep. No, I work on the planes.
So, okay.
But it's the same thing. Okay. We're all dysfunctional and idiots. So,
well, you know, it's okay.
We were actually replaced on my last tour. Our replacement unit was an Air Force unit. The Air Force did them dirty when they sent them over like that. They all showed up and they're like, we watched them have their little meeting, like, all right, for our first sergeant, who has date of rank before me? And they were like all trading date of rank cards to figure out their chain of command in country. I'm like, did you guys not know each other before you got here? Nah, it'll be okay.
Yeah,
that's a little,
is what we do.
And then, of course, they got the guy that comes up to me because, you know, I was the infantry attachment to this trans company to do the escorts. Like, we were assigned to the gun trucks, and so we just pull the trigger and it shoots, right?
Yes,
like,
simple.
Yeah, if you set the headspace and timing and you tweak what's headspace? Oh God, no! Are you pranking me? But they weren't.
Nope.
So that was interesting. And then the funny one was we were in the middle
of a desk, man.
Yeah, someone got to man the chairs.
Exactly, they might
when the green zone was still a war zone. True. We were in the middle of Baghdad when the green zone was still a war zone. We were taking fire, and one of the rounds ricocheted and hit one of the truck's tires. So we had to stop to do a combat tire change because it took out enough of them that it just wasn't going anywhere if we didn't change that tire. So in the middle of that, this girl starts crying, and she's not crying because she's a girl. She's just crying because she was convinced that as a driver in the Air Force, she would be taking Tom Cruise to the flight line and she was going to marry him.
Yep.
That's why she enlisted. And of course, in the middle of a desert war zone, she's wearing perfume. I'm like, you do know that attracts flies, right? Like they
Oh,
like to smell it. No, body funk will keep you alive, lady. And she's just
That
crying
sounds
in the
like
middle. I'm like,
Greenpeace.
I got like, yeah. Well, we actually had a lady who thought when she enlisted in the Air Force, and like again, this isn't
No,
on
no,
the
no,
Air
no.
Force. This
We
is
had
on
a
her.
soldier.
She
We
thought it
called
was
her
like the Peace
Greenpeace
Corps with
because she
guns.
thought she was enlisting in Greenpeace.
yes, we've had.
And we
I've
had
had
one that
people
thought
like
the Air
that.
Force was just like the Greenpeace with guns, though. Like
Yeah.
no,
No.
not really.
We
But
had an army medic who thought the
But
same.
how did you get through basic training and tech school still thinking that? That's crazy to me.
oh, I don't understand. The ones in the Army, it's even more because one of the things they
Ignorance
teach
is
you
a
with
thing.
bayonet drill is they teach you to stab. And when you're stabbing with the bayonet, they ask you about the spirit of the bayonet, which is to kill with cold steel. What makes the grass grow? Blood makes the grass grow. How do you make it through that and think anything peaceful is the objective? I don't know.
I don't know either. We had a
I got
guy
nothing.
who was a maintenance, and he described himself as a conscientious objector, and he didn't feel comfortable working on planes that had weapons or bombs or anything, because we worked on C-17s in Charleston, so it was always an issue with him, and I think he ended up getting separated. But he was like, "Yeah, I joined the Air Force because I wanted to do, serve my country, but do it in a peaceful way." And everyone's like,
To be a
"You
medic.
do realize that these C-17s like transport weapons of death and destruction across the whole entire world, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but
And
they
Charleston was
also,
servicing the war. They were sitting directly to Iraq.
yeah." And then he's like, "Yeah, but they also they deliver food, and I'm only going to work on those." I was like, that's not how this works. The plane breaks, and you go and work on the broken plane." Yeah.
I never
That's
understood
like that's not this
those
works. That's
people,
not how
but
any of this works.
I grew up in my mom's an army brat, and I grew up also with the very rare distinction of being born overseas in a
Ooh.
space where we didn't have fire drills. They called them fire drills, but they were really bomb drills instead. So I mean, I grew up a little bit more security conscious. I don't understand people.
Yeah.
But we have, speaking of questions that get to understand people, we have
The
the
religion
religion
question.
questions.
Okay.
So Avatar, the blue mankind, not the monks.
Okay.
Children of Men or Serenity?
It's gonna have to be Avatar. It's gonna have to be Avatar.
It is a pretty awesome one.
That movie, so I saw it in theaters, and that experience was just amazing. There was nothing like
so
it. Nothing like
You
it.
told me when in the pre-show he told us when he enlisted, so I picked movies that would have been out in theaters before he joined the Air Force, so I knew he had a chance to see them.
Yeah, that
I get a win.
movie, and then I saw it again, not with the 3D effects, and it was terrible. But in the theater, that was one of the best movies I've ever seen.
So were you rooting for the Blue Men or for the Mercs?
Of course, the Blue Man, of course.
How can you not?
And I don't know, that Merc guy was kind of, I was like, yeah, get some. Oh wait, and then
He
everyone
wasn't
in the movie theater
wrong.
is just looking at you.
That was
everyone in the
pretty
movie
much a
theater is
remake
looking
of
at you.
Fern Gully, right?
Yes, it was the adult version
I
of
thought that
Ferngully.
too.
And I am of such
When you
an
start
age
cheering
that
for the
I
bad
watched.
guy-
I remember Ferngully when it was a really big thing too.
Yeah.
Me too. But when you start cheering for the bad guy before you realize it, and then everyone just turns and they look at you, you suddenly become that guy. And I'm just like, hi. All right, I'm gonna go eat my popcorn now.
That's why you don't share your opinions in theaters.
There was this movie with Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler. I forget what it was called, but Gerard Butler was the bad guy, but I was like cheering for him. I forget what that movie was called, but pretty much like his daughter was like killed, or no, his family was killed, and he got revenge on all the people.
Law-abiding citizen? Is that it?
Yes, law-abiding citizen.
Yes. See, for me, that movie is Clamp X, which is an anime. And my brothers know if they want to deal with me by which side I'm rooting for.
Oh, I don't think I've seen.
They're like, oh, she's rooting for that side. Bye.
Clamp X. I'm gonna write that down. I always love me some anime, so
well, it's an old school anime, but it's good. But yeah, no, Clamp X is one of those where if you're rooting for the dragons of heaven, they're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't talk to her today.
Ooh, I like it.
It was my breakup movie.
Wait,
So I do have a question.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead. How is this a breakup movie? You've poked
Because
the bear,
if
Doc.
you're
We need to
rooting
know
for
now.
one side, you're rooting for the death and destruction of humanity.
I mean,
I
isn't that
was
what
not
you
a
say?
nice
Is
teenager.
Thanos right? Is Thanos right?
I mean,
no.
most days I'm pretty much there,
No.
so that's my
You
default
know
setting.
what? There were points in my
Same.
teenager where I thought Thanos was overly optimistic about humanity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Fair. All right. Okay.
The
So is it a
dark did not.
requirement to like
The
anime
army
to
did not
join?
be my dark side.
Oh, wait, go ahead, Handley.
No.
Huh.
So is it pretty much required to like anime to join the Air Force? Is that like a requirement? Like at the in-doc, they ask that question. I've never met one who didn't. So
It depends on your career field. So in maintenance, you have what's called like we call them the knuckle draggers. So that would be your jet engine troops, your crew chiefs, and then you have what we call the pointy heads, which are the avionics troops, the comm nav troops, the people that deal with all the computers. So if you are a comm nav troop or a pointy head, then yes, you must like anime. You must play D&D. You must play Counter-Strike 1.6, not anything else, only Counter-Strike 1.6. If you are a knuckle dragger, you're not allowed to like any of those things. Yeah.
So are you a rebel? Are you a knuckle dragger who likes all the other stuff?
I am a jet engine troop,
outstanding.
and I liked so I messed up. One of the first animes I watched, I think I was 11 or 12, way too young to be watching it, was Ninja Scroll. So
yes, way too young to be watching.
Yes, way too young to be watching Ninja Scroll, but I saw it. I was like, "This is amazing!" Like the style, the violence, all that stuff was amazing. So,
the artwork and the drawing of it is very much, but it is definitely. My brothers tried to get. My mom told me I was being uptight when I told her I didn't think my 3rd grade year old brothers should be watching it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
And then she saw the first 5 minutes of it and she went, go pull it out while they're not looking. Because they were busy paying attention to the computer. Yeah. And she goes, nope, the video didn't work. Because that was back in the days of Blockbuster. Yeah, no.
Smart move. Because, back in the 90s, it was the Wild Wild West. And nobody knew what you were doing.
Well, because everybody went, oh, it's a cartoon, so it's fine.
Yep, exactly.
It's pictures. It's fine. Yeah. And you know what? I know a lot of things that are pictures that are not fine.
Yep. So it went from Ninja Scroll, and then it went to Dragon Ball, and then it stayed at Dragon Ball, then Gundam, and then my favorite anime of all time is Hajime no Ippo. So there's that one, and then after that, it was all of them. It was
they have Gundam models now still.
Yeah, I had a couple. I never really got into the models. I just like watching the show.
It's
do you watch them dubbed, or do you prefer that the what do you call it? What's at the bottom?
Subtitles?
It's
subtitles
subbed because of the voices. So I started watching things subbed, and then when I tried to watch it dubbed, the voices just didn't work for me.
That's fair.
So yeah.
So now getting back on topic, now that we've discussed our taste in anime, what fantasy movie would be your favorite? Dungeons and Dragons, Jason and the Argonaut, or Dragonheart: A New Beginning?
Oh, you picked all 3 trash ones.
Okay. A New Beginning's not my favorite one, but I do love Dragonheart.
The first one was great.
It was awesome.
First one is banging.
Classic. But the second one, no. Dungeons and
Okay,
Dragons.
so,
I guess
so what is your opinion?
Dungeons and Dragons.
See, Dungeons and Dragons.
What is your opinion generally? But I like cheesy B grade movies. Like some of the best time I had watching movies are true, but like watch the B grade like werewolf Nazis take on whatever. Like those are the funny horror movies that are just they're iconic. Dogman, right? People that have watched it, if you know, you know. Like those are some of the best.
True.
It's a reserve British Army unit in training that suddenly werewolves attack.
You say Dogman, and I have an elementary school child, so I'm thinking of a comic.
Oh yeah. My son he likes Dogman.
I'm not up on the picture books.
Way better.
Sorry,
the comic.
You are a picture book.
I will send you the hyperlink for the IMDb page.
Please do, because that sounds fire.
It is gloriously cheesy in all the right ways.
I like some cheese. I'll watch the Sci-Fi Channel from time to time just for some cheesy.
So that was before, like, I remember when MTV played music videos and when the Sci-Fi Channel actually had science
Actually had
fiction on it.
sci-fi.
Now it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, now it's all like ghost hunting and alien pyramid
I
schemes
remember when Friday nights and Saturday mornings were anime on Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, I don't remember that. I remember my Saturday mornings were
I
X-Men.
remember
and
when they showed
Spider-Man.
Akira.
Fire movie. I hope they don't make a live action
All right.
remake.
I don't think you could.
Hope
I really don't think you could. The
I
visuals
thought that
would
about
be too
Cowboy
hard.
Bebop, but here we are.
I have refrained from watching the Cowboy Bebop one because Edward is my favorite, and
Oh gosh, you do not want to see what they did with Edward.
I've heard, I've read the stories. No.
How about those Cowboys? All right, we here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Doc, I'm trying to pull you out of the pit of misery that is the Cowboy Bebop live action. We do not need to go there.
You watch
have
the
enough
real
issues
Cowboy
in your real life.
I can't.
You don't want to do that to yourself, Doc. You thought
Yeah.
2021 and 2020 were
Yeah.
bad. You'll watch that and it gets worse. So we here at the Blasters and Blades podcast like both the fantastical and the scientific. So which was your first love, sci-fi or fantasy?
Fantasy, 100%. It was my parents got me the Dragonlance, so it was dragons of autumn, summer, and winter. It was all of them combined. So this big, giant, thick tome, and they just, I don't know why they got it for me, but I was like, I'm not reading that. That's huge. So
because they probably went boys like dragons.
Yeah, so then I got grounded and I had no video games, couldn't go outside. So I was like, you know, I'll start reading it. And it was like 20 pages in, I was hooked. Absolutely hooked. I think I read the whole thing in like that whole weekend. And then I was like, I need more. I need more. So I just kept reading more Dragonlance. And then
and they got you amazing authors to start with. So they really set your bar and your standard. Like they gave you a good standard to start with.
Those books
did you ever
changed
do?
my life.
Did you ever do any of those choose your own adventure fantasy books?
No, but I did the Goosebumps one. I mean, I guess you consider that fantasy, but yeah, I love those too.
It was horror, so specfic.
Yeah.
They had one lone wolf one that were pretty good. I used to love those. I saved them all and passed them on to my kids.
Oh yeah. My kids read. Yeah, I did the same thing. My kids read my Goosebumps books. My daughter finished reading the Slappy one, The Night of the Living Mummy, or no, Dummy. I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember that one. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they had, and then my son was reading the Monster Blood one. So it's pretty nice, just seeing that whole cycle again. And you know what my kids love, or my son loves the most, and I'm really, really happy that he loves it, is Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
He loves Calvin and Hobbes. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Who doesn't? That's iconic. That's a taste of
I think that's a personality test. I've met people who didn't love Calvin and Hobbes, and I'm going to tell you they weren't worth remembering.
They're not real people. They're like aliens.
There's just something not right. It's like, okay, you are definitely not my people if you don't like Calvin and Hobbes.
They're lizard people.
So here's the litmus test for me. If they don't like Calvin and Hobbes, you're right. That does say something about their character. If they put pineapple on pizza, that also says something about their character. And if they can fold a fitted sheet, if they can fold a fitted sheet, they're wizards. No, they're wizards.
I do fold.
They're
gotta fold that. Yeah.
Well, it explains a lot.
Pizza, though.
Explains a lot.
It's not okay.
See, Doc, he knows that is not the way.
Yeah, there's people at work that will argue for putting pineapple on pizza and even peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly pizza. If you've ever, it's disgraceful. It's
how about I've seen a cauliflower and avocado pizza.
No,
those are
all. There are worse things than pineapple on pizza.
Yeah,
this is true. Bad. We can all unite behind that's even worse. But I mean, it's all shades of horrible, right?
Well, it was also
what was your first? So you basically say you don't want any taste. I get it. So what is your first memory of engaging in specfic? Was it reading the Dragonlance books, or was there a video game, a board game, or something before that in other genre mediums?
If I'm gonna be, my memory is, I've done boxing for like 20 years, so my memory's a little shaky. I'm almost 100% sure my first introduction to specfic was the Willow NES game.
Wow.
Oh, that was trash, but the movie was awesome.
That game was so trash, but I'm almost 100% sure that was my very first introduction to anything, fantasy, wizards, anything like that. Even I think sci-fi. I'm pretty sure it was Willow. Trash game.
Did you ever watch the movie?
No, I never watched the movie because the
Did you watch
game made me so mad. I wanted nothing to do with Willow.
So the movie is much, much better than the game, which is quite often, in my experience, the case.
Okay, well,
So,
it's
got
I
Val
remember getting past the first level.
No, that's okay. You know what? My favorite IP on Earth made it into a video game, and I couldn't play more than 30 minutes of it. So.
Which one?
They had a
Dragon
Pern
Rise
video
Return.
game?
Yes, they
Which one?
did. I even have a copy of it. Dragon Rise of Pern.
Oh, I never played that one.
Yes, it was done by a British company. It really sucked.
Ooh, I remember they had a Dungeons and Dragons game in the arcade that was fire.
Oh, I can imagine that would be good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
I've been trying to find a copy.
I had one that was on the PC for Dungeons and Dragons, but it ended up being like it was some sort of glitch. They recalled all of them because you couldn't make it past the build the castle phase in to start your campaign.
Oh,
Like,
do you remember the
old
ones? The gold box games? It was like, gosh, they're like, this was back in like 1993. It was like, they were at gold box games, and it was on the very first like Mac computer, and they were like Dungeons and Dragons games. You guys ever played those?
No, we had Commodore 64 growing up.
Oh, okay.
So it's old. It was old when we had it too, but I mean, we could play Pitfall in Frogger, so in Boulder Dash, so we were in there. Which I guess technically Boulder Dash was fantasy concept, so we'll go with that.
Okay.
All right.
So
the
what
next
is it
question
that you love about? What is it that you love about speculative fiction as a genre?
It tells a story. I mean, I'm a story person. I like characters, so I like experiences. So, like one of the best characters, in my opinion, is I'm probably saying the name wrong because I rarely ever said it out loud. Is Tasselhoff, the Kender?
Yes,
Dragonlance. I liked him more than I like Raceland. Everyone loves Raceland.
Dude, no. Kinders are my speed. I want to be a Kinder.
I love Tasselhoff. He was great. And just his whole journey. Because I'm talking about, I read the very first one all the way up till, and spoiler, when he died and he met with the dwarf under the tree. And then he was the one that I think his knife killed the chaos god, and he ended up getting crushed. But either way, his whole arc was just amazing. So
no, Tasselhoff and the Kinders are my favorite. I have several friends who have accused me of being a very tall version of a Kinder.
Yeah, that was.
They may not be wrong.
Good to know.
I just like the experiences. I mean, I like the different characters and how just reading about their lives and all of that, because I don't know. I just get you just get into it, you just get drawn into it, and it just becomes like they become kind of like your friends, I guess.
They are, and you hear like their voices, kind of like, I had a friend once said the best thing to do is find a good character to identify with and just use that as your compass when you're lost.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It was man, I had a thought, but it was just hearing him, or you hear their voices, but then also what you do is you read their names, but you're never sure how to pronounce it, and you're always like waiting for someone else to pronounce it to see how, to see if it's right.
That is completely me. Have you ever seen the audio? There's a meme, and it's an audiobook meme, and it's audiobook readers. They know how to spell it, but they can't read it. It's how to say it, but they can't read it. And readers can see it and read it, but not say it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
how did your love though transition into actually writing in it?
Actually, it was pretty easy. I mean, I've written for a long time. Just little things, and then it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago when I said, you know what, I really want to just write my own story, and I just kind of took what I loved, characters, and the things that they go through, and just put that into my own stories. So my books, because I have the first book, the second and third one are written, and I've got a novella for a prequel and a lot of short stories, but it's all just like what I want. It's what I want to read, but also what readers want to read. I know that's what they want to read, and it all just stems from the massive amount of fantasy books that I've read throughout my entire life, like tons of fantasy books. Sci-fi too. I like sci-fi, but it's fantasy is my wife and sci-fi is the mistress.
I can totally understand that one. So, do you have real life experiences that have influenced how you write today and the stories you tell?
Yes, actually I do. So some of my characters are actually bits and pieces from people I've encountered. So you have, because so I started out as a mechanic, and then I spent 5 years doing it's called the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. So it's kind of like NCIS except for the Air Force. So I was doing a lot of like criminal investigations and anti-terrorism, counter-terrorist stuff like that. So some of the people, like there's a character in the Guardian of the Ward that is an interrogator, and he is almost word for word based off of one of my he was a boss that I had, almost like carbon copy based off of him. How he handles things, how he thinks, how I believe that he would behave in a situation like that. So it's actually one of the people that have read it, it's one of their favorite characters, which is pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is, because it was based off of, the person that he's based off is such a good person. He's such a knowledgeable person. He's such a patient person. So it's really nice to see that people really like that character, and it was based off of, a real person.
So the cool news is that when you get a head injury in most life, they call it traumatic brain injury. Boxing is so special because they do it to themselves intentionally that they have its own name for the same traumatic brain injury. They call it pugilitis. And so as somebody who suffered a few concussions myself, I can tell you that the writing you're doing is at least helping preserve the gray matter. So props to you, I guess, right? You're going to help delay the inevitable,
the
Mike Tyson
vegetable
speech.
state, the inevitable vegetable state. Yep, I have to, I'm 37 and I should probably stop, but my goal, I need to win one fight while I'm on the same event as my son, and then I'll stop.
That's cool.
Because he just started. He's been doing it
just
for
not
years.
Against your son.
No.
Not against your
he
son.
needs to win one,
and
I need to win one.
Involved.
And then I'll be like, okay, I'm kind of done now.
I could just hear your family now. I'm like, so all I got to do is pay the other guy to dive to the mat, and he'll stop.
My wife is considered that. My wife is I'm pretty sure the next fight that we have, she's going to find the opponent and be like, look, it's just one fight. It's amateur, so it doesn't really matter. I'll pay you $1,000. Just go down first round.
Oh God.
All right. So before we dive any deeper, because this has been a lot of fun and we've gone down a lot of rabbit holes, we're going to take a moment where we shamelessly shill for the man for a commercial break.
Humanity will be free, no matter the cost. Deep in the Guatemalan jungle, buried beneath a forgotten Mayan pyramid, an earth-shattering secret sits, waiting. Its discovery will rip apart the illusion that humanity is alone in the universe. Engaged in a life-and-death struggle for the future of mankind, Harry Rogers and Jess Cook are forced to protect this secret from the most despicable foes imaginable. They must race across the globe to complete Liberty Station, the first true interplanetary ship. Only then can they search for the shocking truth behind what they found. They have no room for error, because failure means death for them and subjugation for everyone else. Presenting Liberty Station, Book 1 of Humanity Unlimited, written by Terry Mixon. Purchase your copy on Amazon and learn more about the author and his works at terrymixon.com.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial break. I promise while we were muted and the commercial was playing, Doc was making fun of me like she does. So you can feel some kind of way about how mean she was to me. I know you care.
Like
I
it
can
at
tell
this
that
point.
about you, dear listener.
It
I
may
love
be
the
your
banter.
time
Like
in
I said, we put the
maybe your time in the infantry, or our years together, but you seem to like it.
I feel like
mean,
you guys are
we
like
have talked
brother
about,
and sister.
yeah, I mean, we have talked about like we put the fun in dysfunction. So we actually had one of our guests suggest we could do like couples therapy for siblings kind of thing as a podcast episode, but I don't know, that might get a little too real. We might end up destroying the show, so we're just going to keep drinking and move on.
Yeah.
But speaking of your time, well, that's what you do, Doc, right? You drink. What bar have we
She
met?
has a master's in therapy, and I've been reading her books. You can definitely see some of the psychology in her books.
Hey.
Not a bad thing, but I'm
nice.
just like, I don't think anybody needs to hear that kind of stuff.
No, probably not. So speaking of your time in the military, you did mention that you served in the Air Force. So we ask all of our authors who are also military veterans this question, but how do you think you've talked about some of the people you've used, but how do you think your time in the Air Force affects the stories as you tell them?
It's hard for me to answer that question, mainly because I've been in the Air Force so long, so I have no idea how I would write if I wasn't in it. I think it does kind of help though, because there's a couple of characters I have in another book, and they're guards, and I can develop that banter between lower ranking people, and I can write that very well because I've been around it forever. So there is a back and forth, a way that that veterans and people in the military joke around with each other, that if you're not in it, you won't get it.
No,
You won't get it.
Definitely it fits all the sociology criteria for a microculture, or actually even a culture. I had a teacher who made the argument that it fit the definition of a culture, that we only define it as a microculture because it's such a small segment of our overall population.
Yeah, I mean that
and then within that sense. Within that culture, you get it even more microscopic based on certain career paths affecting people differently.
Hey, the best medicine is good. Best preventive medicine is superior firepower.
Yeah, but I mean, you show me a pompous jerk, and I can almost point out, like, oh, he's a fighter pilot. Okay, we'll move on.
Hey, be nice about Casey.
100%.
She's not a fighter pilot. She's a helicopter pilot. It's different.
No, moops.
They're a different kind of crazy.
Fighter pilots are the most entitled people ever in the history.
Oh, we love you, boy Casey. You're still awesome in our book.
And I say that with the utmost love.
Because you fix their planes. And if they make you mad, you might pull a pipe or something. Whatever it is you mechanics do. I just broke something.
I just went up. You're not flying today. Sorry.
What I did learn was we had a first sergeant who thought he was going to make his bones by getting the most combat miles of any trans company in theater. And he did it by volunteering us nonstop. Literally from the week we got there to month 14, we were nonstop rolling. And so there were just times where you would deadline your own vehicle. I'm like, I don't know what happened, mechanic. That part just fell off. Our engine won't start.
Yep. You know what the
we
best
sort of
part
learned
about
how to
being
do
a
that
medic,
ourselves.
The best part about being a medic is if your air conditioning unit doesn't work, your vehicle is automatically deadlined.
Wow. So you just don't have AC?
We had air conditioners in theory, but they didn't work.
No, but for medical vehicles, they have to be able to air condition in case we have a patient who has heat stroke.
That's strange, because in self-made buddy care, they tell us just put them in the shade.
I know, but that's buddy care. Buddy care screws you over. That's the point of it.
Find the shade in the desert. Exactly.
Did you ever do the combat lifesaver course? Is that a thing in the Air Force?
It's called self-aid buddy care. So I don't know if it's like as extensive as maybe your guys' is, but ours is pretty much regulated to 2 hours, CBTs, a fake dummy, and scenarios.
So when I did ours, we jokingly, though, those who did the course with me called it the lick 'em and stick 'em course, because basically all you did is swipe it with an alcohol wipe, give them a IV of fluid, and then wait for the real medics to get there and do their thing. Like that was pretty much,
Hey.
are they bleeding? Stop the bleeding. Everything else, give them an IV.
Oh, okay. And
That was
ours
it.
is like,
Which mostly we used to sober ourselves up after a night.
no, ours is like,
Theoretically.
if he
As a
gets
statute
hit
of
in the eye,
limitations,
you have to like put a cup over his eye, and it's just all this crazy stuff.
so you were CID. I'm just saying, theoretically, statute of limitations is expired if I got out in like 07, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, we used them when we were drinking.
Oh,
That's what the IV bags were for.
You know
You gotta
what?
recover. Pre-game for the next one.
My time as like a law enforcement officer in the Air Force just completely, when I went back to the real Air Force, my care meter dropped to like 2, because it's like I've seen so much bad things. Like I see, like there's this one guy who is we caught him, he was watching child porn. He had it on his computer. Terrible, one of the worst crimes ever. So when I go back to the real Air Force and some airman is late for 2 minutes, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, I worked at Brigade, and we had two people in our provost marshal office, and they were very much like that until you did something that actually like registered for them.
Yeah.
Like, I give a goddamn about that.
Yep.
And then it did not matter who you were or what your rank was, you were going to regret it.
Yeah. For me, it's like, oh, they're like, you have all these higher reps, like, oh, we got to do blah, 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 blah. I'm like, in this grand scheme of things, they're not raping people. Let them be late. Let them kind of, take a little bit longer doing the jobs. The planes are going to fly. It's going to be okay. They look at me like, shake their heads. I'm like, you guys know I'm right. Come on, man. Come on.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
I have seen that.
It definitely ruined my.
It helps if I unmute myself. So we've talked about how I'm like having a conversation with myself. It was like podcast gold, and you guys all missed it. So we've talked about how your time in the Air Force. Sure, there is, and you can't prove otherwise. So we've talked about how your time in the Air Force affects you as the way you tell stories, but let's talk about a little bit how it affects you as a consumer of stories, be it movies, video games, board games, whatever. Do you think your time in uniform affects how you engage with content?
Absolutely, because when I see the typical anything, a movie, a video game, and I see something in the military, it's almost 100% not accurate, and it takes me out of the experience. Like, for instance, Transformers, right? So you had Tyrese. I think in the first movie, he was a staff sergeant, so he'd be like an E5. And the second movie, he was like an E9. And
yes,
I was like, come on, man. And then they were like, the things that they were doing, the things that they were saying, like, it just kind of took me out of the story. So yeah, it kind of ruins a lot of stuff for me. Like the way interrogations go, I can't watch NCIS. I can't watch any cop movie because it's just all completely wrong. So
wait, you mean you don't just go and give smack everybody in the back of the head and they tell you everything they know?
No, that's how I parent.
No, but there's no like sly good cop, bad cop, and no, there's none of that. There's everybody asks for lawyers, but in the shows, nobody asks for a lawyer, which is good. You should always ask for a lawyer. But in shows, everyone's like, you know what? I don't remember what my rights are. You know what? And I'm just going to tell you everything. No, doesn't work.
Yeah. Did you bribe them with cheeseburgers and soda pop from the vending machine and suddenly you have goodwill?
No, it was Burger King from the BX or like, was it Manchuwok from the BX too? They wanted that sometimes. So that's all they wanted. Some Burger King.
I guess if you're going to Leonard Wood. No, not Leonard Wood. What's the big military prison? I mean, Leonard Wood probably, if you're there.
Leavenworth.
Leonard Wood feels like a prison.
Leavenworth. Yeah, Leavenworth. If you're going to Leavenworth, I mean, you might want to get that last cheeseburger before you go to DFAC food.
If I was going to Leavenworth, I would be like, hey, look, do you guys want to know where 50 bodies are buried at? Oh, you do? Okay, well, here's what I want. I want some hibachi. I would want some steak. I would give me everything
so far.
Give me everything. Give me a trip with a C-17 and send a flight. I would want that too. Give me an incentive to fly on an F-35 too while you're at it. I'm making all the lies.
Might as well. Yeah. All right, Doc. Next question is you. Stop laughing.
Okay, getting into things from a fan fun angle. So, have you spotted someone reading one of your books out in the wild?
Yes, I did. So, one of my gym mates, he boxes too, and he sells and one of his odd jobs because he sells knives, which is very funny. So he sells knives. So he came over one day and he did his little presentation. I told him, I was like, look, we're not buying any knives, but you can come over and do the presentation. I know you get paid for that. So come over, do your presentation, but I'm not buying no knives. So he did his presentation, and then he's sitting down there. He's got his phone. And then he starts reading it out loud, my book. And I was like, first of all, I never told him that I wrote anything. I never told him anything like that. And he started reading it out loud. I was like, that's my book. And he's like, yeah, I bought it. And
Cool.
had no idea. So I thought that was pretty cool. And like I said, I never told him. I don't even know how he found out. Maybe my wife told him, but I don't think she did. So I don't know how he found out. I was throwing ads out there for a little bit, so maybe he got caught in the ad because he likes a lot of the same things I do. So that could be it.
You never know, man.
Okay.
It's always amazing.
It was one of the last things that I expected. So it was pretty cool.
So
Nice.
Can you give us like the highlight reel of your body of work?
So let's see. Published right now is book 1, The Guardian of the Word of the Guardian series. Book 2, book 3 are done. The novella, which is a prequel to book 1, is done, and 2 short stories are done. So that is my body of work. I've ghost written some stories before to some people, but I don't think anyone's read their books. So, but I've ghost written.
So since you mentioned Guardian of the Ward, can you give us what the premise of this universe was and where you came up with it? Was it MREs, slumming with the army? The real, what was it?
No. So actually, what it was I was you guys been to Qatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was in there, and then I was on night shift. It was very cold. And I was sitting in an inlet, right? Because I'm sitting in the C-17 inlet. I was just fixing a blade, and I'm scrolling through because they have Wi-Fi out there. So I'm scrolling through my phone, and I see this picture of this. Everyone's seen it, but it's this teddy bear that's standing on the bed, and he's pointing his sword at a monster. And I was like, that is awesome.
Yes,
that is dope. So I was like, and then boom, my mind just starts taking over. Oh, what if it was this? What if there was this? And then that's when it just kind of, I sat on it for probably about the whole deployment, and I started just writing down some of the concepts that I had. I wanted an empire to be there, so I had that. I wanted different cities to be there. I wanted all the, you have all the monsters. I wanted that to be there, but I wanted it to kind of make sense. So that took a while to kind of have everything make sense. I wanted the teddy bear I just didn't want it, the story to just be a teddy bear fighting monsters. I wanted it to have a whole world behind it. So the premise is pretty much, you have the caste empire, and it ruled the land for a good 2,000 years before they were betrayed. And then about 2/3 of the caste empire went away. They kind of defected. They became what's known as the traitors. And that left like the last third kind of struggling. And the caste empire's whole job is to protect the wards, which are sleeping children in another dimension. And the only way that you can survive in that dimension is with like a shell, and the teddy bears are the shell. So they take the cast, the greatest warriors in the cast, and they kind of infuse the teddy bears with the souls of the warriors, so then they can go and defend the wards in the other land or the other dimension, sort of. So that's kind of the premise to the book.
It's a really awesome premise.
Is there going to be an audiobook? That actually sounds
yes.
kind of cool. Is there going to be audiobook?
There will be an audiobook. And I just need to find a really good person to narrate it.
We know some
So is it
narrators.
going to be a male narrator? You going to do
Yes.
male narrator or female narrator?
I hear a male voice in my head, probably because I'm a male. So
I can
generally
give
goes
you
with
some
what's your main
recommendations.
character.
I'm not sure if they have openings in their schedule, but I got some names for you.
well, it'll be like it
So-
won't be anytime soon, but
All the easier. I'll give you
So-
Nick Podell is my favorite audiobook narrator.
really,
Yes.
well,
And I know him. I'll introduce you.
Please do, because like I said, I've worked, the story. Once I had the concept, it didn't really take me that long to write. It probably took me about 6 or 7 months to write, and then it went through, the editing processes and all of that. So shout out to Robert for making that cover.
That's an awesome cover. JR, put it back up.
He is phenomenal. We connected on Instagram, and I told him what I wanted, and I swear it was like as soon as I told him what I wanted, I swear it was like he just reached into my brain and took exactly what I wanted out and put it right there. And I'm not just saying that, but he's going to do all my covers forever, and that's that.
So I was going to ask you about the story about that cover, but you beat me to it, and that's organic and good. So we will take it. I like the cover. I can see, what you did. So let's talk about the book itself more. So what would your 30-second elevator pitch for this novel be?
Sure. So it was described from my beta readers as Mistborn meets Naruto. Is pretty much what everyone kind of describes it as. And I don't know where they I don't know where they kind of got that from, because I don't remember like any Naruto thoughts in my mind when I was writing it. But I took that would be the 30-second pitch.
Do you have excessively complicated names?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Do you have excessively complicated names?
No. I got I think the most complicated one is the demons' names, but I mean that's about it. It's one name.
Sanderson with Mistborn has some heavy duty naming there.
He sure does. But I like the was it the Stormlight Archives better than the Mistborn ones?
Yes. So
we're not here to talk about that guy Sanderson, who nobody's heard of, but we're here to talk about this new up and coming artist who's going to put him to shame. His name is Reginald Lewis. You might have heard about him. What do you think is about Reginald Lewis's books that makes that series so special?
It would definitely have to be the characters and the dialogue and pretty much the uniqueness of the world. My editor, everyone that's read it, said that this is a great book. This is definitely something that is unique in a good way. And the characters are, as everyone says, they're amazing. There's a great twist at the end that nobody really saw coming. So I was pretty happy about that. And you just really need to read it, because was it Indies Today? They said it was like an amazing book. They gave it 4 out of 5 stars. They said it was just a unique new fantasy world. So I was pretty happy about that. But,
all right. So before, Doc, you ask your questions, we just want to put that out there. If you're really listening, Brandon Sanderson, you can come on the show anytime we want. We're just joking around.
I've met him. He's a really nice guy.
He seems nice.
He is a very nice guy, and and he works really hard for all the success he's had and helping people too. So
he is. I was mostly just joking around. So Doc, next question is yours.
I know, I was gonna ask him. So which tropes do you think you really pulled out and played with for this?
Ooh, the tropes. I definitely have the roguish trope down. I like that one, but I don't know if this is a trope, but so there's a character in there. His name is Everett. He's an inquisitor. But so have you guys read? Let's see. Have you guys read Gardens of the Moon? Malazan?
No.
No.
Okay, so he's kind of an eccentric smart, quirky type of person. And I don't know what trope that is, but
The
a
mad
lot of
scientist trope, maybe.
yeah. Okay, I would go with mad
I don't
scientist
know.
trope, something like
So,
that. He's very quirky. He's very eccentric. And everyone says that I did that trope extremely well. So that was a good trope, and that's a good character that people kind of liked. Was Everett.
so
Okay.
JR loves to make me ask about the subgenre question. So which subgenres do you think your story really fits into?
Ooh, so Amazon has it listed as sword and sorcery, and I kind of
Okay.
agree with that. And I mean, if there's a strange Naruto fantasy subgenre, I guess it would belong to that. So, but other than that, sword and sorcery.
So who's your main character? Because you've told us a lot about the world, but not really about who your main character is.
Okay, so it's a multi POV fantasy.
Okay.
So the main characters are going to be Aiden. He's a student that's kind of coming up in the caste empire. They're training him. He's part of a very secretive class. Then you have Everett, the Inquisitor. You have Earth, the Guardian, who you see right there on the cover. You have Sna, who is the interrogator, and then you have Gildar, who is a scout. Those are your main characters.
That sounds like a really good D&D adventure party.
Does so
maybe. Not with them though, because
So
we're
on
all
a
so
scale-
different.
So on a scale of 0 to Lord of the Rings, how much walking is involved in your fantasy novel?
I would say about two. Not a lot of walking.
I mean, he is Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't walk.
So,
I just didn't
We
want any
either fly
flashbacks
or-
to the light infantry. Okay, I just needed to know.
We don't ruck either. We just kind of sit in our chairs or fly.
see?
That's the
Yeah.
life, man. All right, so nobody snuck into an army base to get an MRE, but we certainly snuck onto the Air Force base for their defects. I'm just going to leave it right there.
You know,
So
I can't even.
what about?
That email I sent you it kind of actually did happen. I had a friend in the army. I was in a hotel and I went down there to see how he was doing. So it really did happen. Somewhat.
His email was just enough irreverence that he got our attention. So what about you mentioned the main sort of POV characters, but what about secondary characters? Are there any that sort of stuck out to you?
Yes, I would say the antagonist definitely stuck out to me. And then so with Aiden, you have a lot of his classmates. So there's a girl, her name is Iha, and she definitely stuck out to me too. I put a little bit of my wife in her. So she's definitely stuck out. Who else we got?
So
A lot of the monsters, the Earth fights, I kind of identify with them. I like them a lot, even though he kills a lot of them, but I like them.
So hopefully putting your wife in the story doesn't bite you in the ass later. But if
No,
you do, just
definitely
advice,
not.
buy a better couch. Just
No,
make sure you have a
definitely
good quality couch. Just put that out there. So what about the bad guys? How much can you tell us about them without obviously giving spoilers? Because
Ooh, okay. So So with the bad guys, we have a couple of them. So you have the Essium. Okay, so those are kind of like your standard. Those would be like your demons, your monsters, that sort of thing. You have your traitors. So those are people that defected from the caste empire, and you have the outsiders. All right, but not a lot is mentioned about them. There's just some foreshadowing, and that's really the main villains, and they're all trying to get the wards, and that's kind of explained throughout the book. I would go into it, but it's kind of delves into spoiler territory about what the wards are and what they represent and all that, but it's all explained in the book. But the Essium and the traitors are definitely the main villains of this book, and they're trying to get the wards.
So-
they're trying to I can't spoil anymore, but that's what they're trying to do.
So based on that book cover, it looks like the kind of bedtime story Major Payne would tell. So tell me, are you going to put his character in there? Are you going to have like a Major Payne trope? Because
No,
if
there's
you
no
do,
Major
like
Payne
I'm
trope.
there.
There's no Major Payne
Damn
trope. In one of my prologues,
If he
though, I
ain't
do
daddy,
have
sure ain't happy.
the insufferable bureaucrat. He's I don't know why I just thought of that, but that's a trope that just really stuck out to me. The insufferable, annoying bureaucrat that wants red tape and wants to ruin everything. So
That's because if you've spent a single day in the military, you've met one.
yes, of course. Of course.
That's why everybody hates the commissars in the 40K universe, because it's like, oh, I knew that sergeant.
I love the 40K universe.
It's awesome.
It's sometimes a little grim dark, but
it is.
I've been having to educate JR about the 40K universe and what heresy begets retribution. Really.
Yeah, what my favorite some of my favorite sci-fi books are was it the Eisenhorn series?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Abnett?
I like those a lot. Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah. We have to get him on the show. We talk so much about 40K, we ought to get them to sponsor us.
I mean, what's your armies? What are your guys' armies?
He didn't have any armies. I had it wasn't 40K, but I had wood elves.
Oh, okay.
And I had SOBs, Sisters of Battle. Now we did have Space Marines, Tau, Tyranids.
Tyranids were mine.
At one point, my family had 15 Games Workshop armies.
Ooh.
And 5 people.
So my son was interested in it once, and we were looking for ways to try to do something with him to bond. And he said, that sounds cool. Let's do that, Daddy. So I spent a couple $100 and bought the starter kit, and then we spent a couple $100 more and bought all the damn paint. And we painted that crap for hours and hours. I probably got a contact high just from the paint fumes. And then once we got to actually play the game, there was a ruler, and you're doing angles and doing a little bit of geometry and math. He goes, oh, this is math. I'm done. And I'm like, the hell you are? Do you know how much I just spent?
We're playing, and you're gonna like it.
Yeah, no. I still have in the basement. We have a wall of armies and terrain.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no. It's even my 9-year-old has his Warhammer stuff.
Hey,
so just so you know, dear listeners who might be a little concerned, my Warhammer army is no longer being abused or neglected. You can stop the Sarah McLachlan music. Logan Scott, another author I know, is a veteran who also gets a shout out in my reservist uniform. He's the sergeant major in that universe. I mailed them to him because him and his wife are uber nerds. They, instead of sword arch, they had like the 501st guys doing the saber or lightsaber arch. I mean, they're that kind of nerds. He's a Marine, so who's going to tell him otherwise, though? Because he could punch you in the face.
No way.
Yeah, so they are no longer abandoned. They are now being used. Just
good.
And relax.
They went to a good home.
Yeah, no.
They went to a
I definitely
home. Paint job.
What?
I said the paint job. He probably had to strip them and start all over again.
That's fine. Simple green works. You just put them in a little container, shake them around, put them in some simple green. I know how to do this. The weird thing is when you're trying to be like cool with your mom and not my mom came out and visited when I was at 1-1, which is a heavy infantry unit, armor unit. And my mom's going, wow, you have real one. It looks just like your rhino. And I'm like, shut up.
Shh, they're all gonna hear.
I don't. How about NC is going, what's a rhino? Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Can you
but
go
now
back
all that stuff
to
is cool now. It's cool to do all that stuff now.
Yeah, not in the air. Not when I was in the Army.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But
definitely used to be.
So yeah, we were nerds before nerds were cool. So speaking of characters and getting back on track to the Reginald show and not the Warhammer 40K show, who doesn't sponsor us, but if you want to reach out, Black Library, we'll talk. We'll maybe talk some more because we're doing it right now for free just because Doc's addicted, and we need to fund her crack habit. But if your characters,
I might have had a hope of recovery until I found out Henry Cavill also paints, and then I'm like done.
Oh,
there goes her addiction down that sad range of plastic crack. But
no lies, you gained 5 extra hotness points.
So all I need to do is play Okay, now I'm taking notes. So we're as authors, we
You
tend to
still
do
have
evil,
no
horrible things to. I'm too
Oh,
short. I
horrible
know.
things.
We've established that we do horrible things to our characters. So if your characters met you in a back alley and they knew who you were and all the hell you put them through, how do you see that interaction playing out?
Well, Gildar would definitely try and kill me, and he could definitely do it. I'm an experienced boxer. I know jiu-jitsu. I know Muay Thai, but he can still kill me easily, and he would definitely kill me. So one of the rules in the caste empire is no bonds, right? No bonds. You can't have any bonds to anybody. So you can't have like family. They put families together to have kids, and then they take the kids away at like 3 years old. So Gildar's kids were taken, but he and his wife fell in love, and they tried to, keep it hidden. And I end up using that against him in the story, and he wouldn't like that. He would definitely in an alleyway. He would definitely stab me, shoot me with an arrow. Yeah, and then probably light my body.
And stab you in the arrow wound just to make sure.
Yeah, and then pour oil in the arrow wound and light me on fire. So and he would be perfectly justified.
He sounds very thorough.
Yeah, he would be perfectly justified.
He sounds like some Marines I know, so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that. Definitely some Marines.
All right, Doc. Next is you. Put the yarn down. Stop your crocheting.
I don't crochet, you bastard. Okay.
Knitting?
Yes, I knit. I don't tie knots. I do loops. Anyways.
You have 20 sticks that you stab at yarn for therapy. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yes. I like that way. Stab at yarn. That's a nice way of putting it.
I do stab at yarn. It's okay. So what would your favorite character archetype be? And did you use that one here?
Yes, the roguish type, and it is definitely used here. That would be I would say Aiden, one of the main characters, is kind of like, or is the rogue type. So yes, I definitely use that here. I use it also in one of my short stories as well. So that is my favorite. Would you consider Tazelhoff to be the roguish type, or would he be like the mischievous trickster type?
I think he would be a cross class on that one.
Yeah, I think so too. Doc stabs yarn so she doesn't stab JR. That's good.
Well, it's true.
But yeah, so it would definitely be the roguish type.
So give us a peek about how some of the sausage was made for this. Were there any cool scenes or ideas you cut from the first book so that you could use them later?
Yes. So I had one of Aiden's mentors. I had a whole backstory kind of for him, and then the editor and I agreed that was just completely unnecessary in the book. So I cut it. I was sad. I didn't want to cut it, so I kept it, and I'm going to use it. I used it for a short story. So I was very sad.
That sounds legit.
Yeah.
So that short story that you mentioned, that's the some of the backstory. When can readers get that, and where can they get that?
They will get that probably, let's see, the 13th next month, probably February 10th, depending on when Robert is done drawing the art, they can get it. And it will be free. It'll be a reader magnet for my newsletter. So sign up for the newsletter. You're going to get a really good short story that describes the backstory to a pretty good character in the book.
So you mentioned you're a little bit of a nerd, and you do the D&D stuff as well, some tabletop gamings. And so could you see this working in some of those settings if somebody was a super enough fan?
Yeah, I mean, you could turn anything into a D&D setting, so you can definitely turn this one into a D&D setting. I'd actually never really thought of that until you just mentioned that. So
now he's going to have more homework to go and convert everything.
Goodness.
His wife won't see him for months at a time. I'm sorry.
And it'll all be your fault, JR.
You just
But then she
definitely
can
put
stab yarn
another.
instead of stabbing me as well, and there'll be more sweaters in the world that are ugly.
I
Another
don't make ugly
ugly
sweaters,
sweaters.
you rat-faced turd ball.
Where are these sweaters? Are they like
I'm just
on?
kidding.
I want to see one.
Well, like the ugly
I
Christmas
mostly
sweaters. I
knit
was
dice
riffing on the
bags
holiday
because
that just
I'm a
passed.
super geek.
Oh yeah, I love ugly Christmas sweaters.
I was just riffing off the ugly sweater trend for the holidays because this is filmed like right after Christmas just passed. People, jeez,
That is true. Christmas
don't always
did just
assume the
pass.
worst.
You know, I should know.
Because
We're in the Air
sometimes
Force. We get all of our holidays, so I should have known that.
I mean, we
Yeah.
glued a Santa hat to our Humvee on the turret guard right as we were going through downtown Baghdad for Christmas. Does that count as celebrating? We fired off
Yes,
fireworks and
that
we
sounds
sent
like a
them to the bad guys.
celebration.
They sent them back. It was festive.
That sounds like a celebration that I would like to be a part of. A real celebration.
It was fun, as long as they miss. When they start actually hitting you, not so much. But so the Guardian of the Ward is clearly a series. There's one published book. You mentioned book 2 and 3 are done, and covers are being made, and editing passes are being done. Prequel, novella, and short story are available. But after that, is the story done? Is there more? Where do you see this universe going?
You know, I really enjoy this universe. There's just a lot I can do, and I have so many ideas that I just need to just either write them down as short stories and novellas, or just completely get rid of them. So this series is going to go on for as long as I want it to go on. I have an ending already. I already know what the ending is, so that's not a problem. But I know some of the people that have read the book, they're like, hey, what happened to this guy, or what happened to this person? And I'm like, oh, great. Now more ideas start popping up. So those can, kind of branch off. And I blame Dragonlance for this because they had 3 main books, and then they had all these branching books that branched off into all these different characters, and they were side characters in the main books and became main characters in their own books. And I kind of blame
characters are people too.
Yeah, I blame Dragonlance for that because, like I said, it's it's an inspiration for this book, and the way they did it is also an inspiration. So I see a lot of books being made about side characters and different things that happened in the past, and this little thing that happened there. So
I think that's awesome. I really like that versus trying to make a huge book that encompasses all of every character every time. It just gets to be messy.
So because you have combat in your books, and you have some martial arts training yourself, as well as your stuff in the Air Force. When you plan out your battles, do you just sort of wing it when you write, or do you use like sand tables and go all strategic?
No, I am what they call them, a pantser. Pantser. That's what especially that, because it's like so ingrained in me. I just write it out, and then the editor actually got mad at me because he said that my fight scenes are way too detailed, which they were way too detailed, and I had to scale it back. It was like I had it to where he was pivoting his foot and twisted his hip, and he was like, no, that's way too much. Like one sequence of combat, which would be just like 2 punches thrown, were at one point I got so into it, it was like 5 pages. And he's like, you need to cut that down by like 99%. So,
obviously he does not read your editor.
Or get a new editor. I'm just saying, that sounds glorious.
Yeah, well, I have you'll probably like the one of the short stories, because I decided to just go all nerd out on my combat, and I'm going to do it there.
Outstanding. So when I wrote my first book, I took it to the extreme. I wrote a TO&E. I named every character in every spot in the TO&E, whether they had a speaking role or not, or you even knew who they were. And then when I had people die, I'm like, ooh, Corporal Joe, you don't know him, but he just died. And Bob over here got promoted. I had stories for everybody. And then I realized that's too god dang much work, and I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but I still like that, though.
I do. It's a drug you have to fight against. But so every literary, I know it's the cross we bear. So every literary universe has their own internally consistent rules of science, technology, and magic. In this case, magic. So what sort of magic can we expect from these books?
Oh, so you have pretty much the magic. Everyone that is a mage is a master of either one or two elements, and then you also you have fire, you have lightning, all that, and then you also have just general sorcery. So you can have the telekinesis, all that, and so that's what you can expect. It doesn't get too deep into the weeds as far as magic goes. It's there, it's there, but it's just kind of like it's more focused on.
You're not making a science manual out of it.
Yeah, there you go. You're not making a science manual out of it. That's a perfect way to put it. So,
so of all the magic, and if you invented any tech for this universe as well, what would be what you wanted for daily use?
Ooh, what would I want to be for daily use? Definitely flight. 100% flight.
So how would you abuse it?
No traffic. So I wouldn't have to sit in traffic. That's the number one way I'm going to abuse it. No, that's not even abuse. That's like a responsible way of using it.
Would you buzz the tower? I'm just asking.
Gosh,
I'd buzz the tower. I could fly.
Yeah, I would buzz the tower. That's pretty good.
I mean, you're in the Air Force. Buzz the tower.
Yeah, I would do that. I guess I would make the pilots mad. That would be fun too. I would make the pilots mad. Or you know what? I know what I would do. They would be flying, and then I would go up there and watch them fly. And then as soon as they do something to break something, I'd be like, "Ha! Look, I caught you. You did it on purpose." So then I would go back and I would tell them that.
Or you wear something highly reflective. You sneak up at night because they don't know you can fly yet, and you convince everyone there's a UFO.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good idea. That is a good way to abuse something too.
So how did you go about creating the fantastic creatures you have in your universe?
That's pretty much all just inspiration from different things I've seen. So this hooded guy right here, whose name you could find in the book, that was inspired from a video game. It was a Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
So he was kind of inspired from one of the monsters in Final Fantasy Tactics. So
I can totally see that.
That's where I kind of got him. It's not exactly word for word, but it's definitely the hood is definitely there, and the little ribbons coming from his cloak is definitely from Final Fantasy. So that's where I kind of get all my stuff from. All experience, anime, video games, books. That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's an acceptable answer. So clearly, we've been at this for a little bit. We've wandered wide and far afield. When you really think about it, though, dear listener, it's all Doc's fault. So blame her and send the hate mail to Doc. But as this show is winding down,
good thing your mom likes
anything we didn't. She does. It's kind of disgusting. Was there anything about the Guardians of the Ward that we didn't ask that you wanted to tell us before we move on?
The Guardian of the Ward is, I would say, it's kind of if the readers enjoy Dragonlance, if you guys enjoy a lot of that kind of 90s fantasy, it's kind of a love letter to that, but it's got a lot of what I wanted to see in it, when I was reading it. So I think that is something that people should know. It's a love letter to those 90s fantasy books. Dragonlance there's the Enchanted Forest Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Talking to Dragons, I think
so.
Yeah, but that right there, a lot of that stuff, it's a love letter to all that stuff. So if you like that, you like this.
Okay, fair. All right. So before we let you go, dear listener, we would like you to do your part as consumers of content. So please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So, do your part, and even bad reviews can help sell a product. I have seen reviews that said this book has entirely too much cussing. And I'm like, dude, sign me up. So you know who I am.
100% correct.
I saw one that said this book was written like a 12-year-old with ADHD wrote gun porn, but that actually didn't sell the book because I wrote that book. But I definitely, if they would have let me, I would have used that in my ad campaign.
Oh,
Because I'm like, dude, do you know me? Absolutely. So, sometimes even the bad reviews can help the right readers find the right books. And I'm not telling you to go out there and savage the reviews, people. These people put their heart and soul into their products. And chances are, if you didn't like it, you didn't finish it anyway. So no harm, no foul. But yeah, do your part and share a review. So, are you one of the ones who doesn't read your reviews, Reggie?
No, I don't usually read reviews. That is
Sometimes they could be depressing in the beginning. I get it.
yeah, no, I don't know. I don't really, I don't know why. I just don't. I mean, the most
That's what you
crushing
have your
thing.
wife for, to scan them for you.
Oh, say again.
That's what your wife is for. Make her scan through and pull out the crushing one, so you only get the good stuff.
That's a good idea. But knowing her, she'll probably be like, "Guess what this person said about you," and then she'll just start laughing. She'll start giggling under her breath. She'll like.
See, whenever I say anything that might not be positive, I try to at least make it constructive. Like I will admit, there was only one review where I was like, I cannot believe you did that. And that's because they literally wrote "to be continued" at the end of the book. And I'm like, what the fuck?
So my favorite though is when there's
those things never take less than a year to come out.
So the best ones, and there's actually a website that tracks some of the wacky, although a lot of them have gotten purged, but there's some of the wacky reviews you used to get on Amazon. And one of them was for a friend of the show, Scott Moon, who got a review of his book that said, "These are not the Jimmy Dean sausages I ordered." And I mean, like, dude, how do you feel? Right? So sometimes the reviews can entertain. There is still a review out there for the gummies, the Hasbro gummies, and it's like almost 1,000 words ode to what it did to his gastrointestinal system in ways I cannot say on a family-friendly show, but you should go look it up because it's hilarious. I died laughing, and then when they resurrected me, I read it to everyone else so they could die too. It was hilarious.
I have a friend who's an author, and she said when she feels bad about her review, she goes and looks at the reviews of like places like Stonehenge, which too many stones, don't like it. And she's like, it makes you feel better. It doesn't make sense, but it makes you feel better because nobody is going to be 100% happy with you.
Oh no, yeah, no.
I think there are some people who just like to be unhappy, and so they just look for reasons. You follow the review back sometimes, and you want to see, okay, did they just not like my book? And they read all the other genres, so it's maybe has weight. And then you get to them, and inevitably they hate everything. Like when they are calling people like David Weber and Stephen King 2-bit hacks who don't deserve to be published, and I'm like, so you basically don't like anyone. Okay, I'm in good company. Have a nice day. So that's one way to do it. But that's a little bit too behind the scenes inside baseball stuff, and we keep this fan focused. So for your fans who want to follow you and stalk you on the internet as you do, Reginald Lewis, I'm repeating the name so they know what to look up. Reginald Lewis, how can listeners find you?
Sure, you can find me at my website, reginaldlewis.net. You can find me on Twitter at Fists of Fiction. And then you could find me on Instagram at the same name, Fists of Fiction. My Twitter, I'm usually talking about boxing or other random nonsense. So if you like that, you'll like my feed. I'm not like the typical authors. They always talk about like writing and books. I'm always talking about weird things and boxing and just strange stuff. So if you like that.
All I know about boxing is that scene in the show in the movie Annapolis was a little bit about boxing.
Oh yeah,
I love Snickers had that commercial where the guy had his hands over his ears, and he's like crying because he's about to go out there, and his coach is like, "What's wrong? We've trained for this," and he says, "I'm fighting Mike Tyson," and he takes his hands away, and his ears are freaking huge. Right after that incident happened, so like that's the extent I know about boxing. And the one guy, George Foreman, named all his kids George. Like that's my boxing knowledge right there.
Yes, he does.
Which is kind of good because you never have to get the name wrong. They're all just George.
George 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he has like 6 kids.
I hope he gave them better middle names so they don't need therapy. But so you can find us, dear listener, on Twitter at twitter.com/SF_fantasy_show, Sierra Foxtrot _fantasy_show. You can email the show at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. You can send your hate mail to Doc Cisca at blastersandbladespodcast.com. She loves the letters. Tell her how pineapple on pizza is wrong and it's heretical and she should cease and desist. You can join all of our shenanigans on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/A Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, /groups/A Blasters and Blades podcast. You can support the show on our website, which is anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. That is our website, but you can also support us there on a monthly reoccurring basis, much like a Patreon model. Or you can support the show on buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the show notes that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep Doc Cisca and Nick Garber duly intoxicated. They will drink until their liver surrenders.
Never surrender.
Yes.
Wait, if Nick doesn't show up for a few more episodes, can I get his ration?
Give it to me.
Sure, you can get his rum rations. We might have to replace him with the Air Force guy because he likes to punch people. I mean, that's like qualification to be around us.
That's
our
if
kind
you're in
of
the military, you either get punched or punch people. That's what I've known.
I just confused
Sometimes
them.
You're the statue, sometimes you're the bird. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on, for real. It was a good time.
This has been awesome and amazing. So thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. And dear listeners, especially to you guys, go find some good books. Come buy his book. It sounds amazing. I will be reading it.
Buy it.
So, what?
I said, yes, buy it and tell me about it.
All right, hold on. This is super important, Doc. Before you finish your outro, we didn't ask, but based on the cover and the concept, how youth friendly is this? Because some of the listeners listen with their kids. Is this something they can read with their kids?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. I don't think it has one cuss word, which is a damn in there, I think. But other than that, it's got some blood. So I would say it's like,
they learn more. Kids learn worse than that on Roblox, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I would say it's your average Dragon Ball Z. If your kids can watch Dragon Ball Z, you can watch this. Or Avatar, you can watch. They can read this.
Awesome.
No sex scenes, nothing crazy. So it's just good old fashioned epic fantasy.
You know who else doesn't write sex scenes, Doc? I don't write sex scenes anymore.
Anymore? Don't ask, don't tell.
So this is funny, and I don't know if I've ever said this on air, but I wrote a sex scene in my first book because the main series premise doesn't have FTL. So people go on ice, they go in cryo, and then they wake up when they're ready to fight. And so you could have, in theory, because time dilation is a thing, you could be 18 and meet your great-grandchild who's an old man because you've been iced and he hasn't, kind of thing. So I was trying to set up that for series longevity. So I had a sex scene so the main character could have a baby later. The series went different directions because I had to loop it back into the main series, and the author took a left turn when originally he was going to take a right. But when I sent that to my first line reader, which is my mother, she sent me lots of detailed edits on that scene, says, I don't know what you and your wife are doing, but go practice and then rewrite this scene. And that was the end of that. I can't do it. I'm too scarred. I'm still in therapy, people.
Oh, no. I don't know how you're still alive.
I don't know. I'm like
preservatives in the MREs.
Oh, probably. But Doc, bring it home on that sour note.
So for Nick Garber, JR, who needs all the help he can get, I'm Cisca. This was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week where we torture JR and make fun of him for all of his scars. Enjoy our nerd. What?
I says tis true.
This is true. Enjoy geekiness and nerddom. Have a wonderful time.
All right. Have a nice one, folks.